Okay, so now we're ready to wrap up Chapter 7. We're getting ready to talk about the uh, term structure of interest rates. And you can see that the term structure is just the relationship between time to maturity and yields if all else is equal. Okay, now what makes this interesting is that rarely is all else equal. You can see that during different economic times, okay? But generally, this is the assumption that we work our model on, and basically helps us to understand and make things simple to get the point across. Notice that we pull out the effect of default risk and different coupons. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Our yield curve is a graphical representation of the term structure. Our normal yield curve is upward sloping, where long-term yields are higher than short-term yields. If we have an inverted yield curve, then it slopes downward, and long-term yields are lower than our short-term yields. So let's take a look at what that means. So this is figure 7.6 in your book. You can see this is our normal upward sloping term structure. You can see we have our real rates here in this little green section, and we have our inflation premium. Notice we said generally inflation is the upward pressure on prices. So this is long term, so further out, 10, 20, 30 years out. Obviously, if inflation keeps going, prices are going to be higher. Okay. It also consists of our interest rate risk premium, the fact that we're getting money, reinvesting it, and hopefully we're going to be able to reinvest that at higher interest rates. Okay. Now, if you notice this upward sloping term structure, this is our normal yield curve. And the good thing about this, and kind of what makes our economy or any economy work, is the fact that if there is that upward pressure on prices, then there is an emphasis or importance to buy an item now. So if you graduate and you go to buy a new car, which we've shown don't recommend doing that right off the bat. Wait till you can pay cash for it, right? But if you do, when do you want to buy a new car? You want to buy the new car today, right now, because a year from now, that car is going to be higher priced. And 2 years from now, it's going to be even higher price. And 3 years from now, even higher price. And so, that's what makes our economy kind of work. Why do you want to buy a new refrigerator or a new stove or a new house? For the exact same reason, because next year it's going to be higher. 5 years down the road, the price of that house is going to be higher. Now, what happens when it inverts? This is the downward sloping yield curve. So basically, this is when you hear the yield curve inverted. All right. Notice what happens to inflation. Now, the price, there's not much inflation. We actually have what we call deflation, where the price is cheaper. Okay. We still have the interest rate risk premium. All right. We have the real rate there still, but now instead of that upward pressure on prices are going down. Now, what happens in an economy like this, there is no emphasis to buy now because it's going to be cheaper next year. Why buy a car today when next year is going to be cheaper? The problem with that is when you get to next year, what happens? The price is going to be cheaper next year. Why buy a house now? It's going to be cheaper next year. Why buy the stove now? It's going to be cheaper next year. So what ends up happening in a downward sloping economy, you get into recession, and basically people don't replace items until they are completely worn out. You will cook on your stove until all the eyes don't work anymore and the oven stops working. Then you would replace the stove. Okay. A good example to look at that is kind of like electronics. If you look at buying a TV today and you can get a 4K high definition TV, or you could wait till next year and that exact same TV will be cheaper in price. Of course, we all have that "I want it now" mentality, so we would generally go ahead and just buy the TV. But generally with big purchases, house, cars, appliances, and things, it's always going to be cheaper the next year, so you would wait that extra year to purchase that, and you wouldn't purchase it until you absolutely had to. Okay. If you look up on Bloomberg, this is what you'll see on the yield curves, and here again is a normal yield curve. So here's the yield for 5-year, and here's 30-year out, upward sloping. So that would be a normal yield curve. Okay. Now, the factors that affect bond yields, obviously we saw that in the graph. The real rate, that was the kind of, I guess, yellow greenish section. The expected future inflation premium, okay, that was the blue section. The interest rate risk, the brown section. All right. Interest rate risk meaning taking that money, reinvesting it. If you get locked into that bond long term and interest rates go up, then you're losing the opportunity to get a higher return. So you're asking for some compensation on that now. Okay. They took out the default risk premium. Basically, that is the premium that everybody pays a portion of this premium, and that's the fact that some people aren't going to pay their bill. So rather than losing that money, they kind of spread some of that out to all of us. Okay. And then the taxability premium, we're paying the taxability of the money, a little bit of premium on that. The liquidity premium is just if interest rates go up, their money's locked up into this long-term investment, and they aren't able to get money to reinvest in a higher return. So those are the 6 things that generally affect